Whilst the Middle East braces itself for the possible outbreak of a regional war, Palestinians in the occupied West Bank are mourning yet more young men killed by Israeli forces. 3 were shot dead here in Aqaba last night during clashes following a raid by the Israeli army as they sought to arrest a wanted suspect. And this was 16-year-old Bilal, a 4th victim. Killed in a hospital courtyard, witnesses say there was no reason to target him. This afternoon, grieving relatives and neighbours came to pay their condolences to Bilal's father.
My son was in the crowd outside the hospital, watching what was happening. He was standing at the gate, and as the army passed by, they began shooting randomly. My son was hit twice, in his stomach and in his chest.
Amidst his pain, a stream of abusive, threatening messages sent to him by unknown Israeli numbers.
I turned off my mobile. I didn't want to see their messages. They even kept trying to call me.
Elsewhere in the West Bank, more young men killed in Israeli operations around the city of Jenin today, which the army said targeted militants. And on the outskirts of Jerusalem, a Palestinian was shot dead after attempting to stab a border policewoman with a screwdriver. But it's what happens in the skies above Israel that's the subject of so much international focus right now. Several Hezbollah drones and a malfunctioning interceptor struck northern Israel today. A reminder the country's formidable air defences are not impenetrable. One man was critically injured, but Israel is expecting a far heavier attack from Hezbollah and Iran any day now, after Israel's assassinations in Beirut and Tehran last week. In Lebanon, Hezbollah's leader vowed its response would come soon.
Our response, God willing, will be strong, influential and effective, and between us and them are only a few days and nights till we meet in the battlefield.
As tensions escalate, Iran is reported to be receiving new air defense systems from Russia, with a senior Kremlin official visiting Tehran, whilst President Biden's administration has been directing warships to the region in support of Israel. At the centre of everything, lest anyone forget, the ongoing suffering and ongoing conflict in Gaza. More Israeli strikes today. More blood, more pain, and no end in sight. Well, some developing news out of Gaza tonight. The head of Hamas there, Yahya Sinwar, long considered one of the masterminds of the October 7th attacks, has been announced as the new overall leader of the group, replacing the assassinated Ismail Haniyeh, who had by comparison been considered a somewhat more pragmatic figure. Turning to Hezbollah in Lebanon, when its leader Hassan Nasrallah was about to speak, Israeli jets flew over Beirut, creating a sonic boom, underlining the threat that Israel would pose to Lebanon if a wider war does indeed break out. By the same token, Hezbollah would pose a far greater threat to Israel than Hamas has. And so the underlying assumption is still that neither side really want a war, despite the belligerent tone oftentimes. At the same time, Iran has not been choreographing its intentions in quite the same way that it did earlier this year, where ahead of this huge barrage of missiles that it fired in April, which were largely shot down. And so everyone is unclear about what could happen next. And whilst the expectation is that this anticipated attack will be somewhat restrained, there's always the danger the situation could spiral out of control.
Second in Tel Aviv, thanks very much indeed.